Let's go over Star Wars Episode 9, the final film of the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy alike. This is Mike Zero here. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one of the big subjects for sure about Episode 9 is how many new characters are coming into this movie. So far, to this day, we know that there are going to be 7 new characters coming for Star Wars Episode 9, plus the legacy characters such as Luke, Lando, Leia Organa, and Chewbacca, as well as the next generation characters such as Poe, Finn, Rey, and Kylo. So that's a lot of characters, and that's only scratching the surface when it comes to Episode 9. And this honestly brought up a big discussion a couple of months ago that is constantly going about Episode 9 being split into 2 movies. Now, there is a huge debate on this, on why it shouldn't actually be split into 2 films, is because a lot of people view this as breaking the trilogy format. And I would really love to hear your input on that. If they actually split the movie into 2 parts, kind of like how they did with a lot of great and big franchises out there, such as Harry Potter as a great example, other franchises out there as well. A lot of them do this in order to keep up anticipation for the actual, movies that they are putting out that count as the final film. They're doing it also with Avengers Infinity War, with a Part 2 coming out next year, but it's going to have a different title to it. It's not going to be called Part 2 anymore. But looking at Star Wars as a whole, this is the big debate right now is, of course, why would they really split the movie into 2 parts? Now, in my point of view, I feel like it would be the best thing to do. Now, a lot of you guys out there may agree with me on this or disagree with me on this. That's perfectly fine and okay and all. But I view Episode 9 as a movie that at least has to be 2 hours and 45 minutes in order to tell a large story featuring a lot of these new characters, the legacy characters, and the next generation characters. So that's how many people we have to explore in Episode 9, and I just feel like that this one movie doesn't have a lot of time in order to, kind of give each and every character sufficient screen time to make the plot make sense for a lot of these characters at least. Now, like I always said before in the past, I think that a lot of these new characters that are coming into play here for this film are going to be grouped up together into one big scene, and they may not last the entire movie. Now, we do know that Dominic Monaghan is going to be a character mainly placed within the first act, but he's still going to be in the second and the third, just not as much. So these characters, I think that Dominic's character is a great example that they will stretch from point A to point B of the overall plot of this movie. Now, for me, if they were to split this movie into 2 parts, the greatest way to do it is to just rename it as Star Wars Episode 10 and end the entire Skywalker saga on an even number. It would be the perfect way to go, quite honestly. You could brand it as Star Wars X, and it would be very, very, good as a marketing move to kind of just fill in more Skywalker stuff and kind of give Luke Skywalker what he deserves in the actual movie. I feel like that we didn't really get much of Luke in The Last Jedi. They didn't really do anything honorable for the character other than, of course, him doing a great deed in order to save the Resistance, but killing him off midway through that sequel trilogy, and the reason as to why he died and everything that he did do in The Last Jedi, I just didn't agree with it, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would agree with that. But looking at Episode 9, splitting into 2 parts, it may seem pretty outlandish to a lot of you guys out there, but I really do think that it would be a great move by Disney and Lucasfilm if they, had a hard time thinking about new ideas, or if they're really not quite sure on how to start off the new trilogy by the Game of Thrones guys. Why not just start off by making a Part 2 for Episode 9 and allow other projects to have more time and work on them and make them more full of quality? So for me, a movie split into 2 parts for a Star Wars film, I think that it wouldn't hurt the trilogy format. It would only make it better because a lot of people want to see a whole lot more when it comes to the past, before the events of the sequel trilogy, more backstory for some of our characters such as Snoke and Luke, you name it. So that's the thing here. I feel like that with Kylo Ren being who he was in The Force Awakens and in The Last Jedi, where he's not so much an intimidating character, at least in my opinion, going into Episode 9, if he is going to be intimidating in this movie, this is just one movie in which Kylo is going to be the actual big bad, and I'm not quite sure if that's enough time, because either he is going to get a redemption arc at the very end of this film, or he's not going to, and he's going to go pure evil. We're really not quite sure. But in the case if he does get a redemption arc at the very end of 9, that would really give us like half a film, or maybe even less than half of a movie, where he is a real intimidating character and the actual big boss, the big bad villain, right? In a Star Wars movie like Darth Vader and Palpatine and all the other characters out there, right? So I would love to hear your input on this. I know there's a big debate about this movie being split into 2 parts and why it would break the trilogy format, but also why it would, be a great way to tell us more backstory for some of the characters that we all know and love. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.